All right, now the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development sees signs of stability in the housing market, and today it introduced a scorecard to keep track. Here's a score so far. Home prices have leveled off after 30 straight months of declines. More than 2.5 families used the first-time homebuyer credit to buy a home. That is now expired. 2.8 million homeowners have reworked their mortgages since April 09. But, of course, housing supply remains at an all-time high. We see foreclosures still hovering at an all-time high as well. And there are now reports out that Fannie and Freddie's problems may cost the taxpayer, you and me, up to $1 trillion. Joining us now with more is HUD Secretary Shaun Donovan. Mr. Secretary, welcome to the show. Thanks very much for joining us. Let's talk first about the Fannie and Freddie reports and the foreclosure problem. I mean, we have seen it come off a little bit over the last couple of months, but still hovering at a level that I'm sure makes you uncomfortable. And, of course, it should make all taxpayers uncomfortable because at the end of the day, we're on the hook for a lot of those mortgages.
Well, there's no question that too many people are still losing their homes. But I think the significant difference we've made, we saw in the scorecard, 2.8 million mortgages modified over the last year. And I think the best indicator of that is that we're starting to see a real decline in foreclosure starts. So in other words, the beginning of the process, which is the leading indicator, is down about 25% year over year. And so while completed foreclosures remain high, we're starting to see some real improvement in the start of the foreclosure process, which should lead to lower foreclosure completions in the future. So encouraging signs that we think are a sign of the administration efforts working.
Mr. Secretary, so encouraging signs, but not a guarantee, correct?
Of course, none of us has a crystal ball, and we continue to watch the market very closely. We continue to evolve our strategies as we see the market change. That's why we focused more on unemployment, as the problem with bad mortgages has been replaced by a problem of unemployment in the underlying economy. We've also been focused more on the problems with negative equity. But let's remember where we were when we took office. 30 straight months of decline. Half of the home equity in this country had been lost. And what we've seen over the last year is actually an increase of $1 trillion in home equity because of the efforts of this administration. So while we're not out of the woods, we certainly are in a lot better place than we were when we took office. There was an expectation of 14% further decline in home prices. We haven't seen that materialize. Home prices have stabilized because of the efforts that we've undertaken.
I wonder, you mentioned that $1 trillion number, and it brings me back to the question that a lot of people are asking about Fannie and Freddie. Radar Logic is a real estate examiner, a company that follows prices. They say foreclosure activity is going higher. Prices are stabilizing, but obviously that comes off of very low levels, and it's the spring selling season. And also that government involvement in foreclosure sales is increasing. The question is, how much does it cost? What's the difference between what you're selling as a foreclosed home and the value of the mortgage still left to pay? What do you think the federal government and all of its entities are going to end up paying?
Well, look, a lot of that depends on where house prices go today. What I will tell you is that at FHA, which is part of my agency at HUD, we are performing better than expected. We actually made $2 billion for taxpayers so far this fiscal year. There's no question that Fannie and Freddie, that's a serious problem, and that it's one that we see reform of the GSEs as a critical priority, and we're pursuing that. But let's remember, the problems at Fannie and Freddie, the losses are on loans that were made before the last administration took them into conservatorship. Today, they're playing an important role in making sure the market is stabilized. And one of the worst things that we could do is to move precipitously in a direction on reform that will actually hurt the market further and increase the losses on the legacy loans that are causing the problems today that we're seeing. So we have to move in the right direction on reform. We're absolutely committed to reform, but we have to find the right strategy, and we can't hurt the current market even further in the meantime.
Are you concerned about the FHA loans? I mean, they have, doubled, tripled, up 900% in the last 2 years. They seem to have taken on a lot. And is the credit quality a concern to you?
Well, any of the indicators of credit quality that you look at, our average credit score, the loan to values, all of those are substantially improved. Our expectations, which have been verified by independent observers at the Congressional Budget Office, show that new FHA loans are actually making money for the taxpayer. So we do believe that we should be stepping back. We've started that process by raising our prices. But at the end of the day, FHA is playing the role that Congress intended, which is to make sure affordable mortgage credit is available in the market.
Thanks very much, HUD Secretary Shaun Donovan. We've got to take a break here.